for me. Blood in my dog and I can't see. I'm trying to be what I'm destined to be. And niggas trying to take my life away.
What's up, YouTube? It is Sunday after Thanksgiving and our family just took off, but let me show you real quick what my cousin John, or Jessica's cousin John, brought me from San Francisco this year. We usually like to buy and sell cars back and forth. Sometimes he'll come up here and I'll have a car waiting for him to take home. And then sometimes, like the C6 Corvette I got a couple months ago, I'll have cars purchased and dropped off at his house down there. And we'll make a little road trip to go get them. But this time, I bought this a couple weeks ago, and this time it was more convenient for him to just bring it up for Thanksgiving. So this is obviously a 240SX S14 hatchback. A little bit about the car. So it popped up on Marketplace for a pretty good deal. And as you can see, it has a 350Z engine swap in it. Basically, the price for the car was what the swap cost, and it came already running and driving. In California, it's really hard to register or street drive a car that's newer than, I think, 1975, that's not stock or has California emissions approved modifications. So this is basically an off-road use only car in California. And not being very good looking, it was kind of hard for the guy to sell down there. So he took my offer and dropped it off at John's house. And now it's mine. I have it all open right now because over the weekend we unloaded it and did a little cleaning, washed the engine bay, sprayed the outside off a little bit, and then took a bunch of the junk out of the inside that was just rolling around, and a bunch of wiring and spare parts and stuff that I don't need. So I threw it all away, and now I'm just kind of letting it air out. You can see it has clean-ish quarter panels. Front fenders are pretty clean. And it has this aftermarket body kit that I cannot seem to find out what it is. Kind of looks like a 326 rear piece, but it's just a lip. It's not a whole bumper. The side skirts are definitely different than the 326. The scallops are different, and it doesn't have the vents on it. And then it has a stock front bumper. Would be kind of cool if somebody knows, drop a comment, tell me what kit this is, and I can see if I can get a front bumper to match, so I don't have to buy a body kit for it. Otherwise, hit me up if you want to buy these parts, because I don't really have any interest in throwing a random front bumper on that doesn't match these. I'd rather just go with something totally different. It's all good quality and fits really good. For some reason, the previous owner decided to caulk the seams, so that's going to take some cleaning up. Rear hatch is in good shape. Got to get rid of this foamy wing. Got the battery in the trunk. The chassis rust free and doesn't have any previous damage. Yes, over the weekend we did throw it on the lift and check out the underside, and there's not really any damage or rust or anything, so the chassis is pretty clean. It was obviously red before. Door panels are all there, power windows work, dash is cracked all to hell. Stock S14 seats, stock back seat, and all the trim and moldings and stuff is all pretty much there and in decent shape. The climate control tabs are broken. He does have a radio delete panel with the fans on switches, but there's no bolts holding it in. So once I get the climate control replaced, I'll put that all back together nice and clean. And then I need to figure out what to do about a hydro in this thing. Obviously, the guy spent all the money on the drivetrain in this car. Nice clean VQ35 swap with the CD09 transmission. It's got an intake, it's got a Koyo rad. It's got some Flexolite dual fan setup. It's got a nice power steering cooler on there. And everything's pretty clean. It's got a fuel pressure regulator. It also has some adjustable tension arms and modded knuckles and extended lower control arms and some old school stance coilovers that seem to be in good shape. Got some Watanabe rep, I think they're Sport Max wheels. 4 lug. It also came with a factory hood that had like 4-inch spacers in the back to clear the VQ, and they had gutted the inside. So I ordered the Origin Type 2 hood, hoping that this hump in the center would just clear the motor. But unfortunately, I did need to still install some spacers on there. Not big spacers, but definitely better than the OEM hood setup. And I also did have to notch the fiberglass out. This does fit a lot better than the stock hood did. This is with it closed, and there's just a pretty small gap here. And then you can see where I had to notch it out for the intake manifold and this hose coming off the intake pipe. But overall, a lot better than having a 4-inch gap there. My plans for the car, probably wide body and body kit. Obviously wheels with the 5-lug conversion and a hydro setup. Maybe paint it brown for next season. So I'll get to working on that in the next week or two. I'll be plugging away at it. But for today, I need to update the trailer a little bit. Got this trailer new a few years ago, and these tires are all bald. So I did have a set of brand new trailer tires delivered the other day, and the beads were pinched together from sitting in storage at the factory probably. So I had these wheel spacers laying around. So after sitting for 2 days like this, hopefully the bead will be nice and open, so when I throw them on the tire machine, I won't have to bead blast them. If you watched one of the last videos, you would know that I bought this 2J, and it came with a car because he didn't want to give me that for the price I wanted, so I bought his project car as well. I'm back in the shop today. I dropped off a few parts at Shane's house the other day for the JZ. Super excited to show you that stuff when it's done. Also, he should be picking up the new motor for his FD build, so stay tuned for an update video on that, probably coming next. But for today, I got off work early. I'm gonna go ahead and manual swap the S14 today. I'm probably only gonna get about 80% done. I am still waiting for the new clutch pedal to show up in the mail. Might not be here for another day or two, but today while I was out and about at work, I did stop and get all the nuts and bolts for the bell housing and the flywheel and the pressure plate. So I should have pretty much everything. You can see I moved the cars around, and I got the S14 ready to go on the lift, and I got my workbench over in front of it. So before I put it on the lift, I am gonna unhook the battery and then undo all the shifter stuff from inside the car. So that way, when I put it on the lift and get it up in the air, it can stay in the air till I get the manual transmission in. All right, so battery is unhooked. And you can see I took that piece off, and this piece off. So I basically took the whole center console and dash pieces out. Really simple, just a couple screws. And now it already looks like a manual. So there's all the stuff that I took out. Basically just disassemble, take the shifter off, take the bracket off, and take all these pieces out. And then you'll pull the shift lever up through here. You can see the linkage hanging down, and then you'll pull the pin on the linkage and pop it off, and then the whole shifter assembly will slide out. So then that gets all thrown away. The only pieces you need to save from this is going to be these 4 screws that go here. So that way when you put the manual in and the new shift boot in, you can use those screws to screw it down. Now I don't have to do anything else in here, and I can put the car on the lift and start taking the transmission off. Got the car up in the air, so now I'm going to show you what it looks like from underneath and the things that I'm going to take off. As you can see, I already took all the wheels off for 2 reasons. I don't want to hit my head on them. And also, I got a new set of coilovers to put on this thing. So one of the things I'm going to take off is the radiator. I did get a new radiator that's for a manual. You can see these automatic transmission lines are going to the stock automatic radiator. Obviously, we're not going to need any of that being manual, so that'll be extra cooling capacity in the radiator once that's deleted. And the upper radiator the upper hose neck on the stock radiator is old and brittle and is cracked. So I'm gonna use that as an excuse. For those two reasons, radiator's getting swapped out. I'm just going with a all aluminum, oversized OEM replacement radiator. So I can do that later, but I am gonna just snip the lines here, unbolt them from the engine, and then snip the lines here and unbolt them from the engine. So that way I can pull the lines out, drain the fluid out of the radiator, and then I'll drain the fluid out of this end of the lines, and then I'll pull the plug and drain the rest of the fluid out of the transmission. That way when I separate the transmission from the engine, I don't have to worry about any of these lines being in the way. And obviously I don't need to reuse them. So I'm just gonna cut them and be done with it. I need to get the drive line out. Well, after about, I don't know, hour and a half, the automatic transmission is out. So here's the auto. There was nothing really wrong with it, but it's automatic. So automatic's out, automatic drive line is out, and all the automatic shifter stuff, and all the shifter stuff is out. So next on the list is gonna be, turns out I didn't really have to take the exhaust off. I just had to disconnect it right here to get the bracket off that goes to the transmission. So I'm pretty sure the manual one will go in there without removing it as well. So now I'm going to take the automatic flywheel off and put on the clutch kit. And then I got a write-up on how to modify the harness so that reverse lights will work and the car will think it's in park, so it'll start and run, obviously. So I got the automatic flex plate off, and I also got the automatic pilot out. So if you don't have a special tool like me, well, you can take your cutoff wheel and cut a straight line across it, and then I hit it with this, and it basically collapses it just enough to where then you can hit it at an angle and start to get it to rotate in the hole. And I spray some WD-40 in there, so as you're hitting it and it's rotating, it's kind of lubing it up. And then you just take some vice grips and pop it out. Once you get done doing that though, make sure to spray some brake clean in there to clean out the hole, and then pound in your new pilot bushing for the manual. I also did order a rear main seal for this because I wasn't sure of the condition, but as you can see, this one's brand new. The whole housing was replaced and it has a brand new starter, so that's kind of cool. So I don't need to replace that. Just slid the new pilot bushing in, and now it's time to put on the clutch. So I got the clutch disc, got the throw out bearing, got the flywheel, and the pressure plate. These come oily when they're new, so make sure you clean the surfaces. So I'm gonna go ahead and bolt this up to the engine, and then I'll clean the surface after I do that, so then I don't have to touch it again. And then I'll clean the surface of this, and then I'll put the clutch in and the pressure plate and bolt it all together. Also, make sure you use some Loctite on these bolts here, and the pressure plate bolts. Well, it's been a couple days and I've been pretty sick. Haven't been able to really eat or drink, or at least hold anything down for about 3 days now, but finally feeling a little bit better, able to actually get out of the house and come outside and kind of function again. So I'm getting back on the S14. I did come out this morning to see how I was feeling, and I went ahead and finished tightening the bolts from the transmission to the block under the car. And then I went ahead and put the manual drive line in and reattached the exhaust. I also pulled the drain plug and the fill plug on the transmission, and I went ahead and topped it off through the shifter with fresh fluid until it came out the overflow plug. So the transmission's fully bolted in. It's got fresh fluid. Everything's hooked up. So I got two things left. I've got the wiring, which is these plugs right here. And I've got the pedal. I ordered a brand new pedal and it's not here yet. So it might be here today, might be here Monday, I don't know. But at least I can get the wiring done today and make sure the car starts and runs fine. So that way when the pedal shows up, I just gotta drill out the firewall, put the pedal in, run the line, bleed it, and I'll be done. And holy shit, this is taking a lot of energy. Let me kind of show you the basics of the wiring. So next to the fuse box, you can see there's 4 plugs. There's 1, 2, 3, 4 right there. So those are all for the automatic transmission. So the only ones that we're gonna keep is the top one, which we're gonna actually cut the wires and splice them together. And that, pretty sure that just tells it it's in park, so it'll start. So we're gonna keep that one. Second one down, we're gonna remove. The fourth one down, we're gonna remove. And the third one down has the reverse lights in it. So the third one down, we gotta locate the 2 wires that go to the reverse switch and just hook those up. So other than that, all the rest can come out. What? What are you doing?
Are you playing FL Legends? This tree's gonna die before you even touch it.
I don't think that's how you use the saw, bud.
Yeah. Okay. Someone else can try. Me. It goes in the wheelbarrow.
Making some good progress on the S14, swapping it to manual, but tomorrow's garbage day. So time to put this auto tranny into the recycling. And cross my fingers, it's empty in the morning. This is actually a pretty useful bracket, so I'm gonna take that off really quick. And that's it. Nothing else on here is worth anything. So let me unbolt that, and then it's going in here, and then it's going up to the street.
Like this, and you're keeping everything inside it until you lose it inside of the car again. I choose this.
Reese, how come you're not helping?
Playing with slime.
Hi, how come you're not helping?
I just help.
You didn't do a good job.
I'm taking a break. There's no good ornaments yet.
Do you think that I got this at the when Nano had the?
Wait, Colin!
What are you doing? Look at that sweet one.
Colin!
That looks retarded.
24 karat gold.
Well, I got the wiring done. You can see I've got this one just spliced together and then plugged it back in. And then the third plug down, I took all the wires out of, let me go back to the beginning. I took all 4 of these plugs out, pulled all the wires out. The top plug you just splice together, plug it back in. The second plug you delete. The fourth plug you delete. And the third plug is 8 wires. You pull that out, you take the green and black, and you run those down to the reverse switch. Doesn't matter which way they go. They just have to make contact to the switch on the transmission. And then you delete all the rest of the wires out of that plug. And then you plug that one back in, and that's what I've done. So now technically, even though there's no clutch pedal yet, because it hasn't shown up in the mail, this thing should start and run. So let's see if it works. Well, you can see it's a manual now. Oh, I mean, my tack is wonky. I don't know what's going on with it. It's been like that since I got the car, so that's going to be the last thing I address once I get the manual swap all done and the car is running and driving. Starts and runs just fine. So a couple more things to do. Next on the list is going to be drill out all the holes in the firewall to get it ready for the clutch pedal. So when that shows up, I can just pop it in, hook up the line and the cylinder, and then bleed it, and it'll be running and driving. Also have the new radiator to go in because this upper neck is broken on the radiator. I do have it back on and it holds pressure. And then after I get the firewall drilled out and the radiator swapped, I'm going to put the new coilovers on, and then I'll just be playing the waiting game. Hopefully the clutch pedal shows up today. Well, it's the next day and the clutch pedal finally showed up. As you can see, it is very low now. So the car did come with some brand new eBay coilovers. Obviously I like to run silvers on everything, but this wasn't going to be a drift car, so I figured I would throw the coilovers on just to give it a better stance. The problem I ran into with these coilovers is this is maximum height in the rear. So I did have to slam the front quite a bit. It's kind of weird. So this is basically maximum low in the front and maximum high in the rear. Just some of the bullshit you get to deal with eBay parts, but whatever. They're on, it's pretty even. The tires are, I don't even think they're touching the ground, and the lift is all the way down. So it's gonna be very low. I did keep the stock suspension. Also, as you can see, I got the Navan rear spats and the Navan side skirt pieces mounted. They came black already, so they're not painted or anything. I just put them on, and it makes it look a lot nicer. Otherwise, the front bumper with the factory lip is really low compared to the rest of the body, so the Navan stuff just kind of evens it out a little bit and gives it a nice clean OEM look. I did also get the holes drilled out for the clutch master. So now I'm gonna go ahead and go inside and cut the brake pedal in half and then put the clutch pedal in. Also, it's worth mentioning for people that want to do the manual swap themselves, when you're searching for parts, it's pretty convenient that they sell this kit. So it was actually the slave cylinder on the transmission, the master cylinder, and the line all came together, and it was really affordable. So time to cut the brake pedal, and then I'll throw that in. Last night I did get the clutch pedal in and got the master in. Slave was already in. Got the line hooked up, and Jessica helped me bleed it. So finally time to test drive. Obviously I still have the wonky tack issue. Check engine lights on, which is expected because I removed the automatic transmission ECU. So it's going to be throwing all the codes for that. Pretty excited though with how these trim pieces turned out. So these are just 3D printed off of eBay. It's a manual shifter trim with the boot, and it just pops right into place. And then I don't know if I showed you guys, but the factory trim around the radio had the cigarette lighter and the ashtray, but then it was broken right here all the way across. so it didn't have the piece to go around the radio. So I got online to look for that replacement piece, and they were like 200 bucks. So the same guy that makes this 3D printed piece also makes this one. It's pretty nice. The radio just mounts in there and it deletes the cigarette lighter and stuff. Man, this thing has a nice clean interior. Hey, it works. Obviously it needs an alignment and it's rubbing the front fender liners from being so low, but yeah. Transmission shifts pretty good. And she runs and drives as the manual now. Success! I'm gonna end that video here, guys. Like always, like, comment, subscribe. Stay tuned for the next video. Probably gonna be an update on Shane's FD RX-7. Show you guys the progress he's made on it the last couple weeks and the drivetrain he's using. So stay tuned. Peace.